Be me, 28, married 3 years to Kyle, 31, civil engineer, steady, practical, the type who double checks if the stove is off twice before bed. He's always been reliable, always the guy people lean on. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party in our mid-20s. I was complaining about my dead-end retail job, and he jumped in with this goofy story about how he once miscalculated concrete loads on a project and almost flooded a parking garage. He made me laugh so hard I nearly choked on my drink. From there, it just clicked. He wasn't flashy, but he was consistent. Flowers on Thursdays, just because. Spontaneous road trips to nowhere. Late night drives with his hand on my thigh while we blasted playlists. Sex wasn't complicated, it was natural. He wanted me, and I liked being wanted. Kyle had his quirks too, the kind of things that seemed small until you realized how rare they were. He'd double-check the locks every night, then circle back one more time, just in case. He'd hum the same off-key tune whenever he mowed the lawn. On Sundays, he insisted on making pancakes, even if it meant waking up early after a night out. I used to tease him about being overly careful, overly steady. But secretly, I liked it. It made me feel safe, like life with him might actually be simple in a way most people never got. But as years passed, I started noticing things online, little comments from women saying men only treat you well to get laid. I'd scroll TikTok and see girls warning, if he does the dishes, it's not help, it's an entry fee to your body. If he plans a date, it's not romance, it's leverage. It wormed into my brain. Then came Kara. Kara's 35, divorced, and the kind of woman who treats every brunch like a TED Talk. She fills the room with stories about how men are useless, how she's so much freer without one. When she talks, you don't just hear her, she makes you feel dumb for not already agreeing. One weekend, over dessert, she leaned across the table and said, "Listen, you train a man like you train a dog. Don't just hand out intimacy. Make him earn it. If he really loves you, he'll respect the standards." I laughed, half awkward, glancing around to see if anyone else thought she sounded crazy. No one did. They nodded along, clinking glasses like she'd dropped gospel. Kara doubled down. "You think my ex left because I was cold?" Number. He left because I stopped letting him weaponize sex. Men are addicts, honey. They'll crawl through glass if you control the supply. You just need to stop being scared of holding power. Her words stuck harder than I wanted them to. All the confidence in her tone made me wonder if maybe I'd been too easy, too trusting. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Kyle was asleep beside me, hand resting lightly on my hip. For the first time, instead of warmth, I felt suspicion. Was that touch genuine? Or just another transaction? So I made a decision. No more automatic intimacy. I'd design a system, standards, proof of effort before reward. Literally, I wrote them in my notes app. Earned intimacy, October. Must fold laundry my way, hotel triangle towels. Must plan at least one date weekly. Must leave phone face down during dinner. Must hit the gym 3 times a week. Must check in daily. Compliments plus reassurance. Only if all boxes were ticked, he'd unlock intimacy. The first time I explained it to him, Kyle looked like I'd grown a second head. We were sitting on the couch. He reached for me, kissed my neck like he always did. I pulled back and said, "Hold on. Did you finish the list?" He blinked. "What list?" "My intimacy standards," I said, handing him my phone. "I'm not just giving myself away anymore." Kara says closeness should be earned. He read it slowly, then read it again. "You're serious?" "Completely," I said. "This way it's fair. You prove your love through actions, not expectations." He sat there for a long second, then set the phone down carefully. "Babe, we're married." "I don't want to check boxes to hug you." I smiled like I'd caught him. "Exactly. You want shortcuts, but real love doesn't take shortcuts." He rubbed his face, muttered something about needing air, then went outside to water the plants. At first, he played along, booked dinner at an Italian place, left me sticky notes on my laptop, beautiful inside and out, brought home flowers from the grocery store. That night, I let him kiss me. Kara had been right. He could be trained. I bragged in a group chat I have with Kara. She replied, "Good girl. Don't cave. Keep him hungry. The next week, he cooked my favorite curry and folded towels without asking. I ticked the boxes. We had sex. He kissed me afterward and said, "Can this just be us? Not a performance review?" I told him, "Closeness without standards is exploitation." He looked hurt, but he didn't argue. Then work got brutal for him. Big bridge project deadline. He came home late 3 nights in a row, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes, hands rough from hours on site. The 3rd night, he dropped his bag by the door and slumped into the chair, barely touching the dinner I'd left out. I'd reminded him earlier in the week to confirm a restaurant booking for Friday. He forgot. No date means no intimacy, I announced flatly. He rubbed his temples, eyes shut. I just worked a 14-hour shift. Half the crew called out sick. I had to cover inspections myself. For a split second, part of me wanted to reach across the table and squeeze his hand, tell him it was fine, but Kara's voice was louder in my head. Don't cave. Standards don't pause because he's tired. So I shrugged. Standards don't pause because you're tired. Kara says. His chair scraped back, harder than he meant. Kara isn't married to me, he snapped, voice cracking in a way that startled me. His eyes looked more tired than angry, which somehow stung worse. Then he went quiet, pushed his plate away, and said goodnight early. I noticed him checking his phone more after that, but not in the way I expected. He wasn't doom-scrolling or glued to TikTok like me. It was messages from co-workers, guys from the site, memes and inside jokes that I wasn't part of. He started lingering on those conversations longer, laughing at things I couldn't hear. He'd excuse himself to take a call in the backyard, voice lighter than it had been with me in weeks. I brushed it off as work stress at first, but looking back, it was the first crack, him finding connection outside the walls I thought I controlled. I posted in the group chat anyway. He tried to skip the checklist, I shut it down, Kara replied with fire emojis. That week, he stopped reaching for me at bedtime, still kissed my forehead, still said, "Good night, sweetheart." But then he rolled to the edge of the bed and moved his pillow closer to the wall. I joked, "Social distancing?" He smiled faintly. "Boundaries?" I laughed. I thought it meant he respected my system, but I noticed he also started going to the gym at 6 a.m., earlier than ever. He came home later, sometimes with chalk on his hands from climbing. He laughed more with co-workers on speakerphone than he did with me. I told myself it was fine. He was adapting. Standards make a man stronger. I didn't realize it yet, but the game I thought I was winning was already slipping out of my hands. A week later, the checklist went untouched. No flowers, no notes, no carefully planned date. He still did chores, still paid bills, but the extras stopped. When bedtime came, he kissed my forehead like usual, then turned to the wall. At first, I thought he was testing me, trying to see if I'd cave. Kara always said, when men stop chasing, it means they're sulking. Hold the line, so I did. But Kyle didn't sulk. He adapted. When I called at lunch, he didn't pick up. But the WhatsApp group showed him active. The same names popped up again and again. Co-workers, mostly guys, with a few women sprinkled in. I told myself it was harmless. But then he started laughing harder at his phone than he did at anything I said all week. One night, I asked, "What's so funny?" He locked the screen and slipped it in his pocket. "Just work chat." That stung more than I expected. Started getting worried, so checked in with Kara again. That's normal. Men retreat when they realize they've lost the upper hand. Don't break formation now. He'll either rise to the standards or stay miserable. I nodded along, but part of me wondered, what if he wasn't miserable? Later that month, we went to a co-worker's barbecue. Kyle was polite, but detached. He helped set up chairs, carried the cooler, laughed with the guys, but with me, bare minimum. No arm around me, no leaning close when we sat down. I made a joke, and he smiled faintly, like a teacher humoring a student. One of his colleagues clapped him on the back and said, "Man, you've dropped weight." "You training for something?" Kyle grinned. "Nah, just climbing more. Feels good." They shared a laugh. I stood there holding my paper plate, invisible. On the drive home, I asked, "You couldn't even sit next to me tonight?" He kept his eyes on the road. Didn't think it mattered. "Of course it matters," I shot back. We're married. He didn't raise his voice, just sighed. Married doesn't mean I'm in training camp? A few nights later, I decided to flip the script. If Kyle wasn't going to chase, maybe I'd remind him what he was missing. I lit candles in the bedroom, slipped into lingerie I hadn't worn in months, and waited. When he walked in, he looked surprised, even cautious. "You're dressed up," he said, setting his bag down. I leaned against the door frame. "No checklist tonight. Just us." For a second, I thought it worked. He stepped closer, brushed a hand down my arm, but then he pulled back, shaking his head. "You don't get it," he muttered. "Don't get what?" I asked, forcing a smile. "This isn't about lingerie or candles. It's about how you've made me feel for months, like I'm a contestant earning points." His voice was calm, not angry, which made it worse. "I don't want to beg for affection from my own wife." I swallowed hard. "I'm trying, Kyle. Isn't this what you want?" He looked at me like I was missing the obvious. "Not like this." Then he walked past me into the shower. That night, he climbed into bed on his side without touching me. The candles had burned down to stubs, the lingerie stuffed back into a drawer. After that, the silence grew heavier. Kyle still did the basics: bills paid, lawn mowed, Sunday pancakes, but it all felt mechanical. No teasing, no playlists on late-night drives, just duty. One morning, I found his wedding ring on the bathroom counter. "You forgot this," I said, holding it out when he came back from the gym. He wiped sweat from his forehead and shook his head. "Didn't forget." Then he slipped it into his pocket instead of back on his finger. Something inside me lurched. "What does that mean?" "It means I don't feel like wearing it right now," he said. His tone wasn't cruel, it was emptier than that. I panicked, called Kara that afternoon, voice shaking. "He's shutting down." "He didn't even put his ring back on." Kara snorted. "Classic male tantrum. He wants you to fold. Don't. He'll cave eventually." But as she ranted, I realized she didn't sound powerful anymore, just bitter. I looked at her through the phone screen, sitting in her apartment alone with takeout boxes stacked on the counter, and wondered if following her blueprint had been a mistake. The real breaking point came on a Friday night. I climbed into bed, rolled toward him, and whispered, "I miss us." He opened his eyes, stared at the ceiling, and said quietly, "I don't." The words knocked the air out of me. "You don't?" He turned to face me finally. His voice was steady, almost too steady. "I don't miss what this has become. I used to come home excited to see you. Now I come home wondering if I've checked enough boxes. That's not love. That's a job I didn't sign up for." Tears pricked my eyes. "So what? You don't want me anymore?" He sighed. "I don't want this version of you." The one who thinks love is a scoreboard. I tried to reach for him, desperate, but he pulled away. "Not like this," he said again, and rolled over. The next morning, his side of the bed was empty before dawn. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed for the gym, car keys in hand. "You're leaving early," I said, voice small. "Oh, yeah," he said. "Helps clear my head." "From me?" I asked, hating how fragile it sounded. He didn't answer, just kissed the top of my head like he used to, except now it felt like a goodbye. Then he left. A few days later, I decided to do something desperate. If Kyle wouldn't talk to me, maybe one of his friends would. Maybe they'd explain what was going on in his head, why he was shutting me out. So I texted Mark, one of his oldest friends from work. He'd been at the barbecue, the one who noticed Kyle dropping weight. "Hey, can we talk?" "Just about Kyle." I'm worried he agreed to meet for coffee near the office. When I walked in, he already looked uncomfortable, like he knew this was dangerous territory. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, sitting down. He gave me a stiff smile. "No problem, just, what's up?" I hesitated, then blurted it out. "He's different. Distant. He barely touches me anymore. He doesn't wear his ring. I don't know how to reach him. You've known him for years. What's happening to him?" Mark studied me carefully, like he was deciding how honest he should be. Finally, he sighed. "Look, you want the truth?" "Yes," I said, leaning forward. "He's tired," Mark said simply. "Not just from work. From you. From feeling like no matter what he does, it isn't enough. From having to prove himself in his own home." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Mark went on. Kyle's the kind of guy who gives by default. You probably know that better than anyone. But if you turn that into a job description, if you make him clock in for love, eventually he's going to stop showing up. Not because he doesn't care, because he can't survive like that. I swallowed hard. But I was just setting standards. Isn't that what women are supposed to do? Hold the bar high? Mark's jaw tightened. There's a difference between standards and punishment. He felt punished for being himself. And when a man feels like he can't be himself in his own marriage, he stops being a husband and starts being a roommate. That's where he's at. I blinked fast, tears pricking my eyes. So what do? Mark shook his head. That's not my call. But if you're asking me if he's checked out? Yeah, he's checked out. And once Kyle checks out, it's hard to get him back. His words echoed in my skull the whole drive home. That night, Kyle came in late from the gym. His shirt clung to him with sweat, chalk dust smeared across his palms. He looked strong, calm, centered, and so far away from me. I folded my arms, steadying myself. Kyle, we need to talk. He glanced at the clock. It's late. All the more reason to deal with this now. With a sigh, he dropped his bag and sat across from me at the kitchen table. I talked to Mark today, I said quickly, before he could shut me down. His brows furrowed. You what? I wanted perspective. And yes, he tried to make it sound like I was unfair, like I'd turned love into a job. But he doesn't get it, Kyle. He doesn't get us. You do. I leaned forward, forcing conviction into my voice. I wasn't wrong. I was setting standards. I was making you earn me, the way every man should. His expression flickered, a flash of hurt, then steel. You only say that because you're scared now. If I hadn't pulled back, you'd still be ticking boxes and bragging to Kara about how well I was being trained. The jab stung, but I lifted my chin. So what if I did? At least I was making sure you didn't get lazy. At least I wasn't just handing myself over on autopilot like some clueless wife. Do you know how many women would kill to have a husband who rose to the occasion like you did at the start? I made you better. He leaned forward, eyes steady. Do you know how humiliating it felt? To feel like my wife was reporting on me like I was some dog in obedience school? To wonder if you wanted me, or just control? I shook my head, almost laughing. You're exaggerating. You're acting like a checklist erased everything between us. It didn't. I still want you, Kyle. I still chose you. If anything, it proved you loved me enough to keep showing up. His jaw tightened. I haven't decided yet. The confidence in my chest wavered. Decided what? Whether to divorce you. The word hit like a slap, but I forced my face not to flinch. Divorce? I repeated, keeping my voice even. Kyle, don't be ridiculous. This isn't the kind of thing people end marriages over. Couples fight, couples test each other. You'll see that, once you cool off. His voice stayed calm, cutting. It's not about fights. It's about trust. And once trust is broken, it doesn't come back. For the first time, my throat went dry. But I still refused to let him see me defeated. I straightened my shoulders. You're not leaving me over this. You're upset. But deep down, you know I was right to set standards. You'll think about it, and you'll come back around. He studied me for a long, unreadable moment, then stood. I'll think about it. I watched him walk away, and only when I was alone did my hand shake against the table. But I kept telling myself the same thing. I wasn't wrong. He just didn't understand yet. The next day, I called Kara. My hands were shaking, phone hot against my ear. This is your fault, I spat the second she answered. You ruined my marriage. Kara raised an eyebrow, calm as ever. Excuse me? You told me to train him. To hold out. To treat intimacy like a prize. And now he's talking about divorce. He doesn't even wear his ring anymore. Kara smirked, swirling the stem of a wine glass. Oh, please. Don't dump your guilt on me. I gave you the tools. You're the one who used them. You made it sound like gospel. My voice cracked. Like if I didn't control him, I was weak. You convinced me love was a game of power, and I listened. Kara cut me off, tone sharp. And what's the alternative? Being some obedient little housewife. Letting him get comfortable, take you for granted. You forget how he chased you at the start. You think that happened by accident? Number. It happened because you kept the bar high. My chest ached. I wasn't happy, Kara. I was paranoid, delusional, and now I might lose him forever because of your advice. Kara leaned back, lips curling into a smug smile. Then maybe you should stop seeing it as a loss. If he really divorces you, maybe it means you get to be free. Do you know how many women come out the other side happier, lighter, stronger? Maybe you don't need him as much as you think. I froze, the rage in me flickering into something hollow. Happier. Without him, I repeated, almost whispering. She nodded like a teacher, indulging a slow student. Of course. Men drag us down. You'll see. The moment you stop fearing life without him, you'll realize you were giving away your power all along. I wanted to scream at her, call her bitter, tell her she was wrong. But the words caught in my throat. Her voice was too confident, too rehearsed. By the time I hung up, I wasn't even sure what I believed anymore. That night, I waited for Kyle to come home from the gym. Midnight passed, then 2 a.m., his car never pulled into the driveway. All I knew was that Kara's words, "Maybe you'll be happier without him," echoed in the dark while I lay awake in an empty bed, wondering if he was ever coming back.